All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We have Nancy, a physical therapist, and she's going to tell us about her career. But before that, let's do a little housekeeping. So you know that you need to check in so that your teachers know that you are here. And we have a great questions. And we have the evaluation form. The evaluation form is very important because that's your attendance, and that's how we can give you credit for being here. And if you don't know or don't have the access to the QR code, we also have the link on our chat. So be present, do not play with your phone, pay attention, ask questions. And again, your evaluation is the most important thing. Do it right after the event so that everything, every knowledge that you learn is still there and you can do the evaluation easily. And I'll have Nancy share now.
All right. Well, thank you all for spending your afternoon with me. My name is Nancy Costin, and I am a physical therapist in the Hillsborough area. I grew up in Beaverton, but have lived in Hillsborough and worked as a physical therapist now for 30 years. I've been a physical therapist, so I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Currently I work for Impact Physical Therapy. We're located in Hillsborough. And I'm going to show you via the video here a little bit about our physical therapy clinic, and then we're going to talk about sort of what I do. So hold on.
Sorry, Nancy, I accidentally muted you. You might want to unmute.
There, I'm unmuted. And I have this in. There we are. So as I said, I'm Nancy Costin, and I'm a physical therapist, currently working for Impact Physical Therapy of Hillsborough. This is a picture. I'm going to walk you through a couple of pictures. This is our physical therapy clinic. Physical therapy clinics look different depending on who owns it and what kind of people that they see. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a nice big gym space so that we can wander around. We also have treatment tables if somebody needs to lie down or sit down for an exercise. We have our beaver room. So not to offend anybody, we also have our duck room. Okay, and we do have folks that won't go in one room or the other, but we make it work. We have a fair bit of fitness equipment. A lot of what we do is exercise-based. So here's a little walkthrough. Again, there's the beaver room, that duck room. Good, a lot of fitness equipment, things that you might see in a gym, weighted balls and big exercise balls. But then we also have a fair bit of open space, which gymnasiums, gyms don't often have big open space. And that's what we use when we need a client to move around. Maybe it's learning to walk with crutches, or maybe it's learning to run again after having had a knee injury or something. Okay, so we're walking down. Again, we've got weights like you would see in a weight room so that we can work on building strength. And there's the other end of the clinic. All right. So a little bit, I'm going to stop the sharing here for a moment. So a little bit about becoming a physical therapist. If somebody was interested in being a physical therapist, they would need to go to a college first. Well, actually, I'm going to back up a minute. I forgot. So there's two levels of employment in physical therapy. There's a physical therapist and a physical therapist assistant. A physical therapist assistant is a 2-year degree from a community college, Lane Community College down in Eugene, and Mount Hood Community College in Portland have programs. There are other programs in the state that are being developed, but those are currently the 2 programs that are accredited. So that's a possibility of going directly from high school into community college. And the program is 2 years and you can go directly from high school. Many people, though, go do 2 years of community college in general education first, and then the 2 years of physical therapy assistant school, which then gives you a certificate as a physical therapy assistant. To be a physical therapist, you have to go to have a 4-year degree first. So many people have a 4-year degree in something like exercise science, or kinesiology is another one, sports medicine, those sorts of degrees, but it's not necessary. We have many people in the field that had degrees in economics, in engineering. I have a degree, my undergraduate degree is in dance. Then you apply to physical therapy school. Physical therapy school is 3 years of graduate school. You come out with a degree, a doctorate of physical therapy, and you take a state license exam and you are a licensed physical therapist. Every state has different requirements as to what it takes to be a licensed physical therapist, but basically it's have a degree, take the licensing exam, and you are a licensed physical therapist. So that's sort of what it takes. Then it's like, well, what do I do? So on a day-to-day basis, we are working one-on-one with a client who has an injury or maybe an illness that has left them less than they were before. So either with pain or with weakness or limited range of motion. And those, we figure out where the impairments are and then work to restore the limited capacity. So whatever's wrong, we try and fix, okay? So we have to figure out first what's wrong and then how to fix that, all right? I'm gonna show you another couple of pictures, and feel free to ask questions along the way. We're gonna talk again a little bit more about becoming a physical therapist and what sort of things you could do now or what you would look for in a little bit, but let's look a little bit at some stuff that we do here in the clinic. So here I am working with somebody who has neck pain and is getting headaches from having that neck pain. So I'm helping her stretch her neck. So I'm actually doing the work for her. She just gets to lie there and allow me to stretch her neck, maybe move it around in various positions. Get it to feel a little bit better, maybe take away some of the pain that she's been having, right? A lot of people who have been working from home and on their computer a lot these past couple of years, because that's how we've been doing everything. We've seen a big increase in people with issues of neck and shoulder pain and headaches. They're sitting in one place much longer than they used to. People used to go to offices and get up and move around. And now they sit in front of computers too much. But then after I work with her on feeling a little bit better, then we need to strengthen those muscles that hold her posture up. So here I am teaching her some exercises that she could do at home or at her office to help improve the strength of her posture muscles so that the problem doesn't come back again. Also working with her sitting on a ball. Balls can be a great way, if you do need to be in front of a computer, to sit and be a little more wiggly instead of sitting in a static chair position all the time. So we like to use those exercise balls a lot for exercise, but also just for sitting on, so that people change position more often. Okay. This is another video here. On the floor, you'll see those white looking things. Those are lights. They're going to light up. They're called blaze pods. And sometimes when we're working with a client, we need them to move around even more, and we need them to work on their agility. So here's Andy. And again, having nice open space allows us to do an agility drill. That light wouldn't go out. Good. And this app on our phones allows us to program these lights how we want them, and then track his performance. So I can see if he was able to get to 10 lights or 12 lights in 30 seconds. And then we can work on improving his ability to get from side to side. Okay. I'm going to stop that again for a moment. Good. So a lot of what we do, let's just get to here, thanks. A lot of what we do depends on the client that we're seeing. So if the client is 25 years old and used to play soccer in high school and wants to be able to go play rec soccer in a league, a city league, but they have knee pain, well, then we need to work on getting them stronger and more agile so that they can return to sports like they did, when they were 18 versus 25, right? However, if the client is 65 and has arthritis in their shoulder and can't reach above their head because their shoulder hurts, well, that's a whole different scenario. And we need to come up with ways to get someone's very stiff shoulder to reach above their head again, okay? So the type of clients you see dictates the kind of physical therapy you do. Some people work with kids. So children who are born with developmental disabilities, right? They need a physical therapist to help them grow and become active members of society to integrate into school, right? So physical therapists are very involved with getting children with disabilities in the classroom, functioning at their top level. Likewise, physical therapists work in hospitals when somebody becomes very sick or ill with a heart attack or a stroke, right? They can't function at home like they did. So a physical therapist will work inside of a hospital, working with folks, getting them up and moving around, right? So that they can go home, right? So they need the strength just to get from the bed to the bathroom and back again. So there's physical therapists who specialize in that sort of thing. We at Impact, we do what's called general orthopedics. So lots of different age levels that with general orthopedic problems. Has anybody been to a physical therapist in the group? I'm looking for hands going up. Yes, 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 lots of yeses. Okay. Good. So going to physical therapy can be a positive, fun experience, but it's not always a comfortable experience. I'm sure some of your classmates can attest to that. Sometimes, as a physical therapist, I need to have somebody do something that's not comfortable, that might even be categorized in the painful category. So I need to be able to have an understanding and an empathy that I know this isn't easy and I know this might hurt, but this is the best way to restore your range of motion, your ability to bend that knee. And I know we'll get through this, and I have to bring a little humor, maybe, a little levity to the situation that might not be super fun. Okay. In terms of, so questions going on at the moment? Okay. So in terms of sort of the future or the what we see on the horizon, it's difficult really to predict a little bit. Our medical system is evolving over time. So we as physical therapists are paid mostly by insurance companies. So if you have medical insurance, you go to the doctor, the insurance company pays the doctor. That's the same with physical therapists. If you have medical insurance and you need to go see a physical therapist for something, medical insurance covers the bill. But because of the way insurance companies are organized these days, many people have to pay a certain amount of money out of their own pocket before insurance comes up. So what we're seeing in physical therapy is a number of physical therapists who are going to a different model and doing a model of cash pay physical therapy. And with what is considered direct access. So for instance, I advertise to athletes who play tennis. I understand tennis, and so I advertise to people who play tennis and say, look, if you're a tennis player and you get injured and you want to get back to playing tennis, you should come see me. Likewise, they say, look, you don't want to get injured. So maybe if you're starting to feel aches and pains, come see me early. Let's avoid you actually getting an injury, because I understand tennis and I'm going to understand what you need, right? So very specialty markets, we're starting to see a lot of that happening in the physical therapy world. But there's also a lot of what we'll call traditional physical therapy clinics, where patients come in when they're injured and we bill an insurance company, and the patient has a limited amount out of their pocket that they are paying. Right? Medical insurance is pretty tricky, and it is a big complicating factor in how we provide services and how people access services. But that's a whole, I guess, a whole other discussion also. So the future of physical therapy, I'm going to say, is very bright. It is not super easy to get into physical therapy school. You need to be mindful of your grades and your extracurricular activities, your volunteer activities, those sorts of things to be admitted to physical therapy school. There are not a lot of physical therapists that graduate every year, and there's a fair bit of need. So consequently, there are plenty of jobs right now. Right now, there's a lot of jobs available. You guys are a little young to be right out getting PT jobs, but if you were interested, one of the things that you can do is you can oftentimes get a job in a clinic as a helper. So maybe you're helping at the front desk, or maybe you're helping in the back, helping with cleaning and stocking and seeing what goes on inside of a clinic. Hospitals hire aides also, helpers, and no degree is required. Generally hospitals want you to be at least 18 years old, but you can, again, it's a helper position, but you can then see what's going on and get to know physical therapists and get to see what the profession's like. It's a great way to understand the profession and see, is this really something I want to do? Okay. I know there's always questions about how much do physical therapists make. It varies a lot by where you work and what your degree and what your experience is. So a physical therapist assistant, so the 2-year degree that we talked about earlier at Mount Hood Community or Lane Community College, those people with that degree starting out make somewhere between $25 an hour and $35 an hour. Now, again, if you work in a larger city area, you're going to make a little bit more money, but it's also more expensive to live. If you are willing to live in a rural area, the rural area needs physical therapists a lot. So you do make a little less money, but not a lot less. And the cost of living is much cheaper. So if you like that sort of, tiny little town idea, then any of the medical professions are badly needed in those rural communities. As a physical therapist, starting out, you make somewhere about $35 an hour, maybe 40 this day and age. And then it goes up from there. Again, very dependent on what you do. If you go into management where you're running a clinic, you're looking at $60 to $70 an hour. And I always like to just do it in hourly wage because I think that's something you guys are more familiar with. And you can do the math on what that would mean per year. And then again, if you are the clinic owner, if you say, ooh, I'm going to own a clinic, you can make very good money owning a clinic. But you also have a lot of risk owning a clinic. And if a pandemic shuts you down for a year, it changes things. So in non-pandemic years, business is very good, but in owning a clinic. All right, questions going on? Anything? Say last year I had so many questions I couldn't keep up. All right, so what is a typical day in your work life? So a typical day for most PTs work 8 or 10-hour days, right? They choose. Do I want to work 4 days a week and work 10-hour days, or 5 days a week and 8-hour days? I work 5 days a week. So a typical day, you get to the office first thing in the morning. You turn on your computer because we do all of our charting electronically. So you get your computer booted up, and your patients are all scheduled, so you know who's coming in and what you're doing. So again, you're looking at the computer to see what happened last time in the visit that I had with this person last time, to help guide my decision of what I'm going to do this time with them. What exercises do we need to review? What new things do I need to teach this person, right? And so typically I'll see in an 8-hour day, I'll see 10 to maybe 15 patients in an 8-hour day. 15 would be a lot. 10 is busy, but not too crazy. So you're seeing patient after patient for several hours, take a lunch break, come back and do the same thing in the afternoon. So you're always going back and forth, looking at the computer. What am I doing? What did I do last time? What are we doing today? Making that decision in your head, and then making sure you document that back in the computer. Okay, this is what we did today. So you always have to give yourself a couple of minutes with each patient to write it down. What did we do this time? So that you can look at it again for next time. All right. Asking about more money in a hospital versus independently. Typically, you're paid a little bit more in an outpatient setting like I work in. Hospitals pay a little bit less. That's not always true, but that's mostly true. But in hospitals, you often have other benefits. So maybe you make a little less per hour, but they have a better 401k, or they have better health insurance than a small practice. So now all the questions are coming in like crazy. Okay, I'm getting there. Let me do this. I do want to go back to my screen. I want to share another thing about physical therapy. Well, actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to do this first. So somebody just wrote in, what led you to choose this job? And I think one of the things that is important that you think about as a physical therapist do make good money, but you have to love what you do, right? And I think one of the things that led me to this is a lot of what I do is teaching people about what they need to know to take care of their body, how to, what they need to know to feel better, to feel stronger, to live a healthier life. And so I just have this strong desire to help people understand their bodies, right? And I've always had that. I've taught exercise classes since I was 18 years old. I started teaching when I was in college. So it's sort of something that's always been there. And then I was working at the university where I was going to school and heard about physical therapy. I hadn't heard about it before college, and heard about physical therapy. And I thought, oh, that sounds really interesting. You get to work with folks who are, injured or ill, teach them about how to get better and guide them through that process. That sounds amazing. That's exactly what I want to do. Right. So it was just by talking with somebody who told me about physical therapy that sparked my interest. But that desire to teach people about their body was something that was just in me that I really liked. You need to be reasonably fit as a physical therapist. It's a physically demanding job. You have to demonstrate exercise most of the day is what I do. I do 2 or 3 demonstrations of exercises with every client that I see. So that is physically active. If you work in a hospital and you're helping very ill people get up and move around, you have to sometimes, physically lift them, right? So it is a very physically demanding job itself. That being said, there are also people with physical disabilities who are physical therapists, and they have learned how to use their own bodies in a way that makes it possible to do their job. So somebody with a physical disability can absolutely be a physical therapist, but you have to figure out how to make it work for yourself. So it is physically demanding, and it is challenging mentally. When you have spent a day with a lot of people who are sick or injured, in pain, are a little grumpy because they're in pain, it can sometimes be emotionally and physically draining. And some days at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm done. But then the next day you go back and you see the small gains that somebody has made and the difference that you made in somebody's life. Like, they're now able to pick up their grandchild, let's just say, right? A grandpa who didn't have the strength to lift a grandchild now can. That's huge for them, right? You take an athlete who thought they would never play a sport again, and you show them that they can run and jump and cut and play sports again. They're so excited, right? And that then renews your energy. So some days are very physically draining, very physically and emotionally challenging. And then the next day you come in and you're like, this is all worth it. That's why I do this, right? So you have to be able to roll with the punches a little bit, and not let it bog you down. Dealing with insurance companies is a challenge. Every healthcare provider will attest to that. It's not an easy system to negotiate. So if you work for a very large corporation, like a hospital, let's say, and all of that insurance work is taken care of for you. You don't have to deal with it very much, which is nice. But when you work in a large corporation, you also have to abide by the wishes of a large corporation. So pros and cons. As someone who wants to major in dance in college, did you double major with some kind of exercise science? No, I didn't double major. I had to go back and take all my science classes. So I have a major in dance. And then after I graduated, I went back and took science classes. So a double major would be possible, but challenging. So you could do it, but it would be challenging. What are the best opportunities for someone who wants to be like you? Any words of advice? So I think the best advice I have for somebody who's thinking about a physical therapy career is to see it in action. If you haven't seen it in action, you need to. You need to see the crappy days and you need to see the good days to say, yes, this is something I want to do. To be a physical therapist assistant is a lot less expensive to go to school, and you get out quicker and you get to do the job. But there are certain aspects of the job that only a physical therapist can do. The biggest difference is a physical therapist assistant needs to work in tandem with a physical therapist. So a physical therapist assistant couldn't go out and open their own clinic. They have to have a physical therapist there. And the physical therapist needs to see the patient for the very first time and do the initial assessment and diagnosis and plan of care, decide what's going to happen. The physical therapist assistant could then carry that plan out. But it's a much less of an investment in time and money to get the degree as a PT assistant, okay? So you're talking about 2 years of school at a community college versus essentially 7 years to become a physical therapist, and a lot of money. So if you decide you want to be a physical therapist, it's a very expensive proposition, and you need to make sure that's what you want to do, because you don't want to get that far into debt and say, not really. Okay. So the best word of advice is hang out with a physical therapist if you're thinking this is what you want to do. And there's lots of us around. So we're reasonably easy to find, and we're almost always easy to get along with. So want to know if how long would you recommend someone work as a PT in a clinic before they open their own if they wanted to? I think you just need a year or two, and then you're going to know if you're ready to open your own clinic. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take for your return on investment. So again, if you were thinking as a physical therapist, I want to own my own clinic, I would encourage you to do it as a young person before you have so many other obligations for your time and money, like spouses and children and mortgages and those sorts of things, because that's what gets in the way of owning your clinic, right? So doing it young is great. The problem is it's also expensive. So you have to have money. You have to get somebody to loan you money to open a clinic, which people do all the time. So don't misunderstand and think that that's not available. It's just that it's it's again, it's a risk. You have to borrow a lot of money and say, okay, I'm gonna do this. And, you know, how do you, and then jump in, right? It's never easy. You work a lot of hours, but it's your own thing. So if it's your passion and you really have the passion for doing this, you're going to be okay. But having mentors is great. So and it could be a mentor in any kind of business, right? Anybody who's started a business and has successfully run a business could be a mentor for a physical therapist that wanted to start a business. Okay. Do you have to major in something like kinesiology? No, you don't have to major in any specific degree. You just need to have a certain amount of science prerequisites done. I'm going to share in a little bit the American Physical Therapy Association's website that does talk a little bit more about specifics about becoming a physical therapist in just a bit. Someone asked, did I have a career in dance? And when that was done, went back to school. I suppose you could say that I had a very, very short career in dance, maybe less than a year. And then it's pretty difficult to make a living in dance. And I had this, like I said, I had this passion for teaching. So I taught a little bit of dance. I did dance a little bit in Los Angeles, but not long. And then I went right back and started school again. So, and school was much more affordable back then. So you could live and go to school back then a little easier. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard on you guys. I have kids that one's in college and one graduated from college. And so I know how hard it is financially with school. But I'm going to tell you, on the other hand, stick with it. Find the money. Take out some loans if you need to. Apply for scholarships. There's scholarships, especially any, PT right now has a big problem that it is dominated by white women. We need diversity in physical therapy, and there are a lot of programs right now that are really working to encourage a more diverse workforce in the physical therapy world. So there's money out there that can help you even with undergraduate and then with graduate school, especially for anybody of color. So help us out. We need a more diverse workforce. I'm going to share a screen again. I don't know what time I'm looking at time. Okay, I got a little time. I'm going to share a screen again. I'm going to go back to my slideshow here for a moment. That was Andy doing his thing there. Andy's a physical therapist that works for us also. Oh, come on. Oh, maybe if I hit the right button, that would help. Okay, I'm going to escape. Something's going on, I don't know. I want to share this APTA website. To shrink that down. Andy, I want you to go away. There it is. So this is from
We are
Um,
seeing your slideshow.
Still?
Mhm.
So if you're on a browser, you're going to have to unshare and then reshare the page that you want to.
I thought I did do that. Okay, sorry guys, hold on. So I unshared, I thought. Oh goodness. Okay, I'm gonna try one more time. And then if it doesn't work, I think this is gonna work now. Did that work? Now do you see the,
Yes.
okay, thank you. So the American Physical Therapy Association, the APTA, is the governing body over all physical therapists. That's who decides whether or not a school can offer a physical therapy program. That is who I am licensed. They're between them and the state, who I have my license with, right? So they rule the physical therapy world. And so the apta.org is the place to find out the most reliable information about becoming a physical therapist, right? So anybody can go to that website and see, what does a physical therapist do? Where do they work? What do they earn? Like, right? And then there is a link here on finding a physical therapy program. So if it's something you're interested in, then you can look up all of the different programs across the nation, right? And so you could put in, the state that you wanted to go to. I want to see what programs are in California, right? And then we'll list all of the programs. It does the same thing for any PT assistant program also, okay? So it's a great resource when you're starting to look at physical therapy programs as an option. I'm going to stop that there for a moment. Good. So the apta.org is a fabulous resource. If you're thinking, oh gosh, this might be something I'm interested in, there is a slight advantage sometimes to going to undergraduate school at a place that has a physical therapy program, because almost all of the schools that have physical therapy programs have a pre-physical therapy major. And sometimes you can do what's called a 3-in-3 program, meaning you do 3 years of undergraduate school, college, and you go 3 years of physical therapy school. You end up with a major in pre-physical therapy and a doctor of physical therapy at the end. Okay. So if that's like, this is something I'm doing, then I would suggest looking at some of those schools. You can save yourself a little time and a little money by going to a school that has a physical therapy program in it. If you're dabbling and like, it might be something, then, exploring lots of different schools. Again, the PT assistant program, lot of need for PT assistants, 2-year degree, community college. Right now, like I said, there's only 2 in the state of Oregon, but there's multiple in states. And again, on the APTA website, they'll show you all the PT assistant programs in the nation also. So you can find all of that information there. Plus other helpful information about about physical therapy in general. So one of the things I think that people don't know about physical therapy is that in most states, Oregon being one of those states, you do not need to see a doctor or a other medical provider before going to a physical therapist. If you have an injury or an ailment that you believe is related to muscles, tendons, bones, the musculoskeletal system, you can go directly to a physical therapist to seek a diagnosis, evaluation, and treatment. Many years ago, you had to see a doctor first before you could go to a physical therapist, but that is no longer true and hasn't been true for many years now, but many people don't know that. You can, if you want to go see a PT, call them up, schedule an appointment. And really you can see a PT for any reason. You know, aches and pains on up to a real, you know, a major injury. I have people call my office who know me, who say, oh, I was out playing flag football and I felt a pop in the back of my leg. And they come in, schedule an appointment, come in, and then I can figure out what's going on and whether or not they need to go seek specialty care or x-ray or that sort of thing. We don't have the ability to order that stuff yet, but that's coming. It'll happen one day. All right, more questions. Are there questions that I've missed? I'm sure there are. Let me decide to scroll back. If I missed your question and you can retype it again too, and I will see it at the bottom there. All right. I guess one of the things I want to leave you with is that some of the things that are new on the horizon for physical therapy that are not quite out yet is the integration of technology in physical therapy. We're seeing more and more about wearable technology and integrating that into the physical therapy world. There are new advances in surgical techniques that are making it easier for physical therapists to do their job. We're seeing telehealth is a part of physical therapy now when it never used to be. So that's pretty simple integration into physical therapy, but it never happened before last year. So we're starting to see a lot of integration with technology into the physical therapy world. And it's a lot of fun to see some of these new ideas happening. So I think that the future is very bright. It's going to be changing. You're the next generation that's going to change it. So having creative ideas is going to be a really helpful thing for the next bit of physical therapy, and thinking of new ways of doing things, and throwing out some of our old ideas, and bringing new energy and new life to the profession, I think is pretty exciting. Any last questions? We've got a couple of minutes.
There was a question from Violet. Is there any misconceptions of being a physical therapist?
I don't know. I think people maybe don't understand the variety of physical therapy. They've probably seen one physical therapist and they think that's what every physical therapist does. So for instance, if you were a young high school athlete and you got injured, you went to see a physical therapist that was similar to me, that, you know, worked with healthy, active people. But there's physical therapists that work with all sorts of people. Like I said, from little babies on up. They work in hospitals. They work in nursing homes. They work in schools. They work in hospitals. They work in small towns and big towns. I think the variety is endless. They work in colleges, right? So there are physical therapists who teach physical therapy school, right? So, so if you like being a professor, you can be a professor. You can do research, right? I have a friend who used to work for Nike doing product development from a injury prevention standpoint. So you work for sports teams. I have another friend who is a physical therapist for the Milwaukee Bucks, right? So the jobs are endless, okay? Kept up the recent. Do you have to keep learning to keep up with recent technology? Yes. Oh my gosh, I learn every day. It's crazy. And that's the part of the job that I love is that it keeps you fresh. Every month I read a journal article, so some scientific publication I read every month to keep myself fresh and find out what's new. You know, social media, for all its drawbacks, also has some really great things. There's a lot of physical therapists on social media, Instagram and Twitter, talking about real life stuff that's going on, and sharing ideas across the world, right? There's a number of physical therapists who I'm connected with who are in Australia and the United Kingdom. And so that was never possible before. Now I share ideas with people from all over the world. That's fabulous. So that's technology. For you, what was the ultimate factor in choosing a PT job? Was the fact that PTs get to work with people multiple days, right? I see a patient, let's say once or twice a week for 6 or 8 or 12 weeks, right? As a physician, you see new people every day and you have a short amount of time with them. You know, some of the other options, you know, I don't think I really knew about them. Like, I didn't know what a chiropractor was. Nobody ever suggested I try that. So never thought about it. I know what they are now, but never really thought about it. So it wasn't an option for me then. You know, massage therapist, didn't know about that either, right? So part of it is what you're exposed to. So if you expose yourself to a lot of different healthcare providers, acupuncture, massage therapists, chiropractors, naturopaths, occupational therapists, speech therapists, audiologists, right? If you go and listen or meet with one, maybe that will spark an interest also, right? I got introduced to physical therapy. I was like, yep, that's it. And I never looked back. So I don't know, maybe I would have done something different if I had met an audiologist. I don't know, maybe. What kind of branches within physical therapy can someone specialize in? OT with coordination. Are there classes you can take in college to learn about that? So in terms of specialization, there are a lot of different specializations for physical therapy. Again, if you go to the apta.org, the website that I talked about, that also talks about areas of special interest, they call it. So neurology, so people with brain dysfunction, whether it's from a stroke or a brain injury or other, brain tumors. So neurological, there's the whole neurology side. There's cardiac, like all things that have to do with the heart and the lungs and the vascular system. There's specialties in pediatrics, like we talked about, in working with children. There's specialties in working, there's specialties for private practice owners. Like that's a whole specialty of owning a clinic, which is running a business while being a physical therapist. So those sorts of things. So in terms of classwork, I would focus more on the big picture versus specialization. Specialties come as you do it more. Looking at the bigger picture in terms of physical therapy is probably a great way to start. And as you go along, you'll find that area of specialty. So thank you guys for spending your time with me. I know you have lots of obligations for your time, and I appreciate you wanting to hear about what I do. I love it. What's an audiologist? An audiologist is a person who specializes in hearing and also with dizziness and balance. Our hearing and our balance centers are very intertwined, and an audiologist does that. That's another specialty degree. So, all right, I'll give you one last question time, and then I'll let you guys go. Anything else? I've got thank yous, and I think, like I said, I thank you guys for spending your time with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your journey and showing us the clinic, and makes me want to think of going there because I'm having a migraine.
There you go.
But
You're
yeah,
again.
that's a really good information. So we'll stop the recording now. So everybody, if you want to